I can't reiterate that enough. As a recruiter, winning, there's a mentality, there's a attitude, there's a ability to bounce back from challenges and resilience that you can't really put a statistic on. No doubt we're looking at the statistics of, okay, what are they good at? What are their percentages? How do they shoot? Are they efficient? But that's always balanced with winning.
All right, we're here with Coach Andrew May, and you are coming off an incredible season for you personally, being voted Coach of the Year, for your team, ending the season ranked number 1 in the country for junior colleges. So I wanted to start with kind of a intense question here.
Sure.
Is, from a junior college perspective and the players and you as a coach, what is the reality of junior college basketball that most people would be surprised to hear?
Yeah, I would say no doubt the high level of play that is in junior college basketball. Now there's 3 divisions of junior college. There's Division I, Division II, and Division III. There's also 2 basically separate junior college conferences that are in California, and then there's another one in the northwest of Oregon and Washington, and then the rest of the country is in what's called the NJCAA, and they have three divisions. And so at the highest level of Division I basketball in junior college, it's extremely competitive. Very talented players that are going to the highest levels of Division I basketball. So we had a player 2 years ago from BYU. We currently have a player on our roster that was signed to BYU that's on our team for this year. We definitely have very, very competitive basketball. And so there's definitely a perception of, for a lot of kids coming out of high school, like, oh, yeah, I mean, no doubt I could go play junior college. And the fact is, depending on where you go in junior college, there's a huge spectrum. And so at the very, very highest levels of junior college, there's no doubt a very, very competitive world that players who were in Division I, who are bouncing back to junior college and want to go back to Division I, there's just very, very competitive. So that's what I would say for most people who aren't aware. Just generally speaking, they think of, okay, Division I basketball is the goal, and then anything else below that is probably not very good, which is not really the case. Like the highest levels of Division I, there's competitive teams that could very well compete with the lowest levels of Division I basketball and give them a run for their money. And so I've been able to coach in junior college. I've been able to coach at the low major Division I level. I've been able to coach at the high major Division I level. And to see the spectrum that is there is really impressive. So that'd be the biggest thing for, people that are unfamiliar, is that it can be very, very competitive, high-level basketball.
Do you think that with the changes with the NCAA, kind of the transfer portals and everything else, is making that even more so, that a lot of the players have to kind of prove themselves here first before the higher colleges will look at them?
No doubt. That's going to be the more of what the future holds for the average high school, not at the average, the higher level average players. I suspect the top 50 of the recruiting class each year are still probably going to Division I schools. But below that, you're going to see more and more. Like I said, this year we have 2 4-star players on our roster that didn't go Division I. And back in the day of junior college, and this is probably part of the stereotype of junior college, is that, oh, that's where all the bad students go. And that has significantly changed. It's definitely, we had a player this last year, Isaac Garrett, who, was essentially conference, first team all conference, had offers from Florida State and Cal. And he had a little bit of Division I interest coming out of high school, who came and played for us, did those 2 years, had high major offers when he left here. I think that model will be the future for most high school kids, including if and when they pass the legislation in the NCAA that the years in junior college don't count against players. Then I suspect Division I's altogether are going to be like, unless he is a very highly impactful freshman, why would I take an impactful freshman versus I could take a kid that's played 2 years of junior college that's a freshman, right? So I would guess in the future we're going to have even more alignment with junior colleges, with the local Division I schools, and where they work together on the process of, hey, we really like this kid for our future. Let's make sure he's in a great program in junior college. He gets to play 2 years there, or 1 year, depending on their situation. And we're having them come into our program the next year. So junior college has definitely changed that way from a perception standpoint, stereotype standpoint. And especially at Snow, we have Like 2 years ago, we had 10 academic All-Americans. We've had a kid go to Brown and Cornell. This last year, we had 7 academic All-Americans. Our team GPA was a 3.7. Like all of those things scream, junior college is no longer the like, oh, that's where you should go if you're a terrible student. It's really a breeding ground, a developmental ground, a G League, if you will, for the Division I level.
That's amazing. I did see that your team GPA was 3.7, and that's incredible. Like not just for any team, high school, college, any team. That's awesome. Is that something that you actively, as the coach, are pushing and developing with your students? You just kind of have those guys that are that way.
Great question. 100%. We recruit kids that are good academically, and we develop the heck out of it. I would say last year we had the second highest GPA in all of junior college, and we frame it for our players as there's 357 Division I teams, and about 100 of them are exclusive high academic schools. And so you're closing the door on 100 opportunities if you don't handle your business in the classroom. And so that when we frame it that way, I've had guys that have come in here that are not, Rhodes Scholars by any stretch of the imagination, but we help them with their process of going to class, turn their assignments in, make sure they're talking with their teachers, communicating well, and doing the stuff that it takes to get good grades. And we've had a few guys that have been academic All-Americans who probably are not high academic guys per se, but they open the doors for them to be able to go to a bunch of different schools. And so it's definitely a priority for us. And I just think it's part of the college experience. Like you can have college be I got to check the box so that I can play basketball, or it can be a developmentally, wonderful thing that you're expanding your ability to understand, right? Like, especially in the world of NIL now, if kids were able to take personal finance classes here in junior college, how it would help them so much when next year, a player's making $150,000 when they leave Snow, and they have some idea of, oh, I'm now in a tax bracket, and I'm all like, all of those things to me are part of helping our guys become, whole people instead of just all I do is I hoop and that's all I do.
Yeah, so. And I've always looked at academics almost as like defense on basketball, right? So much of it is effort. Right. And it's just, if you just put in the effort, you don't have to be a genius to get reasonable grades, just put in the effort.
Especially in high school. I mean, I would say if you're trying to get recruited and I get a, 2.6 GPA from a kid, and unless he is the player of the year in the state, then it's kind of like, man, okay, I can recruit a really good player as well that's also a good student. And most of the ones that we get here are that way.
How do you balance, as we were talking about, this is kind of going to be the leaping stone to get to a Division I school based on how well they're able to do here. So you're kind of going to be balancing players who want to get their own and they want to show out and they want to impress other schools in hopes of getting another offer with, okay, you're going to be fitting within this team structure. We're trying to win as a team and play together. Does that make sense? Like, how are you balancing that?
Yeah. It is the constant challenge, and also probably an area in which junior college gets a ton of stereotypes is, I mean, it's guys that are just out for themselves, guys that, don't care about the rest of their team's performance. But I would say we do that because of the culture that we have, the types of kids that we recruit, that and then just constantly framing that our success is the megaphone of who you are as a player. We were the number 1 team in the country last year, and we had no doubt the best recruiting Snow has ever had as far as players going to the next level, all of that stuff, because we had so many more eyes on our guys. And even when we had one guy, we had the National Player of the Year for the first time in school history, Isaac Finlinson. It just attracted a whole bunch of other coaches to come look and watch. And man, their 2 guards really good, and their big guys good, and their point guards good. And so framing our team success as paramount relative to their individual success, I think has been critical. And I also think when we get freshmen in here and they see sophomores that are like super getting all of the recruiting that they want, they're like, man, I'm going to be part of that process as well. And in some cases, a few of those freshmen have gotten recruiting and left after their freshman year. But I think that is super important as a coach is, guys, our success is entirely dependent upon how well we are together as a team. And I think they really fast when you are able to show them in film. We do tons of film of possessions on the floor when the ball's moving and we're playing unselfishly and we're reading the defense and we're taking what they give us. versus possessions where, look, you just stopped reading the floor. You just took your agenda and you shot a tough shot. Like, just so you know, you shoot a bunch of those, it's going to hurt your efficiency. And as a Division I recruiter, that like I was the recruiting coordinator at Utah Tech, so I could tell our players, this is what Division I coaches are going to come watch. They're going to see you, and they're going to hop on this computer that says Synergy that has all of their efficiencies on there, and they're going to see you're not an efficient player. You might score 18 points a game, but on 30 shots that are bad, like all of those things hurt your recruiting. And so helping them see that there's a correlation with us sharing the ball, us playing unselfishly, and you taking good shots equals, man, you're going to be super efficient and people are going to want to recruit you and have you on your team.
I love what you're saying here, because I've tried to say this to some kids as well, is that coaches at the next level, if you want to get recruited, they're going to go to winners, like teams that are winning. And that doesn't mean 50 points a game. It's, if you're a winning team, you're going to get more attention. And I think that you just expressed the exact same thing.
I can't reiterate that enough as a recruiter. Like, winning to me encapsulates all of the other non-statistical variables that are in a basketball game that, you can't really count. Oh man, he's great in rotations, and you can definitely go and watch it, obviously, but winning, there's a mentality, there's a attitude, there's a ability to bounce back from challenges and resilience that is encapsulated in winning that you can't really put a like statistic on. And so no doubt we're looking at the statistics of, okay, what are they good at? What are their percentages? How do they shoot? Are they efficient? But that's always balanced with winning. I think in the last few years, we've had multiple state champs that just, they come from programs where they win at a high level. Chance Trujillo came from Davis High with Coach Sims, who's been on your thing. Like those are the types of examples of guys that they already know how to win. And now my job when they come here is help them fit into our program and then help them evolve their games and develop their games so that they are the most efficient player that they can be. And that will translate to playing at the next level.
What are the best ways for you to do that? Because again, like at a 4-year school, that's a lot of time. You've got some time to develop players and help them learn the system, and they can see a lot of older guys. Here you've got 2 years. And so it's kind of like a quicker development process. So what does that look like here?
Definitely. And if you think about it now in Division I with the transfer portal, they're becoming a lot more like we are of like each year. I mean, you look across how many rosters in Division I are, what kind of continuity they have from year to year, and it's brutal. And so it's looking way more like what junior colleges look like. And so for us, it starts with our culture, laying a foundation of like what our purpose is as a team, our values, our standards, and then finding captains and leaders on our team that exemplify those things. Makes it way easier for guys that are coming in to buy into the program of this is how we play, this is what we do. And so that's really a big part is the foundation of our culture. And then it is a daily grind of practice that we are very deliberate about. We plan practice every day as a staff, and we try to identify strengths and weaknesses of our players. And then we also give them in practices constraints of, all right, you struggle dribbling with your left hand. Today, you can only drive into the paint with your left hand. And nobody else on the floor knows it but you and me as your coach. And so developing your ability to do those things is a big way that we help our guys grow and develop. And it keeps practice really fresh. They don't feel bored. It's not the same thing. Like I'm giving them new challenges that will help them individually. And then also doing that, from the team level as well, as we work on press break and, zone defense, all the different stuff. And then the third way is just then we watch film like crazy. Like we watch probably an hour a day, maybe 30 minutes to an hour a day of film. And it's totally constructive feedback. And also we really, really highlight the stuff when guys figure it out. And like, look, see how you sealed here and our guy was able to drive it in because you sealed well. Like that stuff to me develops the winning habits that they need to have for us to be great. But then also it translates when my guys go to the next level. I had one of our players, the Isaac Garrett kid at Oakland, who their head coach called me right after their first scrimmage and said, "Your boy was fantastic tonight." Like, awesome. And I'm like, these are the great. I helped them get ready for that opportunity, and so those are the kind of the fun parts of coaching.
There's so much I want to unpack here. We could be here for days.
I got time. I'm
gonna try. When I mentioned I'm the assistant coach here, and when I was going into a practice, like the very first one, I almost had like a mini panic attack of like, how am I going to cover everything that we need to cover?
Yeah.
There is so much. You just mentioned press breaks and zones and mans and seals and left-hand dribbles or whatever else. How do you put together those practice plans? Again, now you're leading up. The season's about to start. You've had some preseason, like pre-games.
Yeah.
How do you unpack and decide what are you going to focus on most during these practices?
Yeah, great question. This is I don't know how to say this, but my dad owns a practice planning software that I use every single day. So it's shout out to him, and it's called Practice Planner Live. We use it every single day. It's a great way to track. You have your practices across the whole season. I've had them at all the schools that I've been at, that I can go back to and see what we've done in the past. But, we have our foundations from offense and defense, and then transition are kind of the three areas that are the big picture areas that we start with. And then I usually will have an assistant coach that runs that I put in charge of defense. And so he'll come to our staff and we'll discuss kind of what he's thinking for our defense and what fits our personnel. Usually he's been in my program for a while, so he kind of has an idea of what we like to do, what fits us, all of those things. And then offensively, I'm starting with transition, and I'm working on guards and big skills, different passing things. But I would say it's very, very simple to start, very not complicated, and especially like you mentioned before, because it's junior college and, these guys have played together right now. We've played together for about 2 months. Like being able to build on very foundational, fundamental things as far as passing, as far as reading, our basic offense. We have, it's called like our play after the play, which is when things break down, this is what we run. All of those things are stuff that you have to be constantly building and adding layers and like iterations to, so that eventually they get to where they can read stuff on their own, they can make decisions on their own. That's the end goal. But no, like planning practices is a very important part. It's usually we take an hour a day talking about what our strengths are, where we need to grow some more, and then kind of what our plan is for the future. So it's very, very structured early in the year, about like, we need to hit these items. Okay. We need to work on closeouts. We need to work on blockouts and what that looks like. And so before the season starts, I usually make a list of like, here are the things that we got to make sure that we hit as a foundational thing. And one thing that's probably a helpful practice for a lot of coaches is kind of identifying the things that need to be everyday things versus things that are once a week things. Like for me, press break is a thing that you can do once a week. You can touch it once a week. Maybe zone you can do twice a week unless you're a heavy zone team. But all of those things are like considering before you start the season of, okay, how often should I be hitting these things as ways to, emphasize, because we only get 2 hours a day at our school. Like the gym's used by others, and in high school, I guarantee it's the same. And so being exceptionally diligent and deliberate about what you're doing in practice is, I think, critical. There's not enough time to do all of the stuff that you want to do. And so being able to pick what are your big picture things that need to get done. And then another really important thing is like how they're moving in their development through the season. And so once they've kind of mastered more basic elements of your offense, okay, now we're moving them to the next thing and to the next thing until I get the final product at the end of the year that guys are reading and making decisions on their own. They don't need me to tell them everything that they're doing because they can see all that stuff. So those are kind of the long answer to your question.
No, I love it. We originally made this, I told you, like for my son and for kids and parents that are wanting to make a high school team, but I found that so many coaches are tuning into this as well. And so I think this is just so valuable of what are the realities now of a college basketball experience. And so you've got the macro stuff of how does the team deal with certain things. And then you have the micro level of an individual player and a skill. How much of your organized practice time is skill work for the individual versus more of the team concept, and how much is expected for them to do that outside of formal time?
Yeah, great question. I would say, especially in the preseason, there's going to be heavier skill development side. So I would say probably of our practice, we're probably 25% of it is skill development, individual skill stuff. And then as we
that breaking out guards and bigs?
Yeah, breaking out guards and bigs, or what we'll do a lot of times, because time is so valuable. One of the things I've found is instead of a very boring warm up of some kind, like we're just going to work on some sort of skill to start. Like, okay, they just stretched and we're going to do a skill thing. So like, for example, we'll work on coming off the ball screen and the big rolls quick and we throw the lob, or we come off the ball screen and the other big's ducking in and we throw it into him. Just those types of things that are more guard and big related. We'll do those to kind of warm up. And then we'll do other segments that are just guards together, bigs together. We'll do stations of defensive things, right? Like working on denials and closeouts. And so there's lots of that. But I would say as the season goes, we'll get to where probably 80 to 90% of practice is team oriented. And then as we get later, we'll definitely cycle back to keep things fresh, where we're doing, 40% of practice is skill development, just so guys are continuing to stay fresh, and we're reviewing skills when they've got a ton of the team concepts down and everybody kind of knows roles already. That's a good way. Our previous coach here at Snow, Rob Nielsen, told me is a great way late in the season to keep things fresh is going back to more skill development.
Interesting. Can we move to recruiting a little bit?
Yeah.
We have two sides of this. So one, what can players do to stand out to you? And then two, how do you stand out to players that you want to come here?
Yeah.
So maybe we can go like, what can high school kids that want to play here? We were talking offline. I've got someone that wants to play here.
Yeah.
What can they do to really stand out to you?
Yeah, and if the person is a in-state kid, what it is we evaluate is, number one, what level are they playing at? Are they playing at the highest level of the state, right? If they're 6A, 5A team relative to 4A, 3A, 2A, 1A, like those are part of the equation for us as far as level of competition, right? And that's one of the things that AAU, to me, people all ask me a lot, is AAU more important? Is high school stuff more important? And I kind of see them both perfectly hand in hand, and they give you kind of two different samples and two different contexts to see the player. And so definitely the high school experience that they're having and the role that they play on that team is important. And then on the flip side, if they play AAU, we understand that guys at AAU, it's usually an all-star group of single players off of a bunch of high school teams. And so their role may look different on that team, but they just give us different ideas. And so to be seen by junior colleges in the state of Utah, no doubt you want to be playing on one of the best high school teams in the state. Like you talked about winning, like that instantly gives you credibility. It gives you, that coaches' eyes are going to be on your team because your team's winning. And then the second part I would say is that AAU, there's obviously a whole bunch of AAU teams, and there's some extremely elite AAU teams, and we're plugged in and watching those guys to see, how their players do and so forth. And so those would be the big things. Obviously, we recruit by position. So depending on what position you play and what your skill set is, is going to define a lot of, okay, would we have interest in you? And so to get noticed generally by any junior college is performing, with a high winning team. You're super efficient. That means you shoot the ball well. You don't turn the ball over. If you're a guard, you're also a good playmaker, and your ability to guard the ball is high versus big guys. Okay, big guys are kind of their own category. 4 men are kind of unique as well. So 5s, if you're big and strong and athletic, I usually give the foundation is, do you have the physical tools to play at the Division I level is a starting point for us generally.
Yeah.
If you are tiny and not very quick, and like those are just going to be limiting factors, you need to be shooting 50% from the field, 40%, 90% from the foul line, and average, 15 assists a game to 2 turnovers. Like that's what a kid like that looks like that would have a chance to play junior college and play at the next level. So that's usually a foundation, is their physical tools. And then we move to their skill sets in their position. For me, I kind of grade skill sets on dribble, passing, and shooting, obviously, but playmaking is exceptionally special for me. Last year, the Isaac Garrett kid that's at Oakland that had all those high majors was a 6'9" kid who could play make, which is really, really hard to find. Yeah. And so then the last would say, to me, one of the most challenging skills for guards, which the majority of players that are listening are going to be guards, is their ability to make decisions in ball screens and see the floor and do those things. If players can do those at a high level, they've got a chance to play at the next level. So hopefully that gives a little bit of feedback of what we look for, and then also what can just help them. No doubt playing on a really good team at a high level will allow us to get a good context of, this kid can compete against, other Division I players, so forth.
I don't want to create a bunch of spam mail to you, but if there is a kid that's wanting to get on your radar and maybe they aren't on one of the top AAU teams, or they're very good on a high school team that isn't winning for other reasons.
Yep.
What is the best way? Should they just kind of wait and hope that you reach out to them, or should they reach out to you?
Great question. So in the junior college world, I would say there's going to be a little more proactivity, especially after their senior year ends. A lot of junior colleges will hold like open pickup, things like that. Those are great ways. If you get to the end of your senior year, it ends, and you have zero college interest, then yes, you need to be going to gyms to go play. And then you get feedback from the coach and say, hey, I'm sorry, I don't have a spot for you. Or no, hey, I'm interested, or whatever the spectrum of things can be in those cases. And so I would say if you end the season, if you have a chance to be on a winning team and you're all state or you're leading in statistical categories that are important in your position, all of those things help you. It never hurts to send an email with your current statistics. Percentages are super important. With a little highlight and maybe a link to a game against the highest level team that you've played. All of those things are data points for the coaches. But then another really important aspect is just basketball is so much about relationships that there's a few guys that I trust, and when they certify a player to me, I seriously look at their opinions. And so a lot of AAU coaches, a lot of high school coaches that I trust, I will definitely, when there's a really good player, I'll go talk to a coach in his league and say, what do you think of this guy? McCaden Adams, who came back for us, I had multiple coaches in his league say, Coach, he's really good. And those are all, I'm certified by guys that are seeing him every day versus I get to see him on film and I show up and get to see a practice and maybe one or two of his games. I watch him at the state. But for that, and those are, the good part about all those is it's really hard to fake a whole bunch of coaches that know, right? Versus I can get one person to sell one thing and trick somebody and they got it. And so I would recommend for kids that are trying to make a junior college opportunity, it's doing those things we talked about. At the end of their senior year, if they don't have the stuff they're interested in, then they're being aggressive in like, hey, I want to come practice with your team and see where we are. And then, and I would also say doing that across the state of Utah. There's 3 good junior colleges here in Utah. There's a couple really good ones in Idaho, in the Northwest, Oregon and Washington. There's a few junior colleges that recruit heavily Utah kids. And so those are great places for them to go to get experience. And in the world that we live in now, a kid goes to one of those junior colleges in the NWAC and crushes it there, there's a good chance he can move up to a higher level JUCO and then does well at that JUCO and he moves up to the, I mean, that's more and more the route that kids are going.
Okay, I have a question for you now. If I'm going to one of your open gyms or one of your practices and I want to stand out to you now, again, this is a setting where everybody's trying to get their own to impress you. What really does impress you in an open gym setting now?
I would say going back to that, if you're a guard, going back to the playmaking capacity is a really, really good thing. Obviously, you need to be able to guard, fly around, be disruptive defensively. But that kind of skill and competitiveness in those things is really important. And we have very, very competitive open gyms. So that's what I would say is they come in and they win and they're efficient and they shoot the ball well. They can pass, they can guard, all of those things are, those are checking boxes that coaches are looking for, right? And not just me. I mean, that's what every coach is looking for, those things. So for guards, that's definitely the case. For big guys, I would say catching, scoring around the rim, rim protecting, and then being able to run and be in really good shape. That's one of the things that I've noticed a lot of kids struggle at. And maybe it's because we're at elevation here. We're 5,800 feet, higher than Denver, that being in an excellent shape so that you can go, especially as a big guy, you really stand out. I have a big guy that has an elite motor, and I have tons of D1 coaches that come look at me and go, man, his motor is incredible. And so those are all things that kids can train and get better and so forth that will help them stand out in not just mine, but a lot of others.
I love this. Again, you just keep opening up things that I want to talk about. So the one thing you said about asking coaches of high schools that they competed against, I think is super interesting. I hadn't heard that before if I'm the coach of a kid, of course I'm going to prop him up and do my best, but to hear it from other coaches and get their respect, I think is awesome.
Is huge.
When you talk about conditioning, what are the conditioning expectations here, and how do you get your guys in shape in the off season? What does that look like from a running or ladders, or what does that look and
great
feel
question.
like?
So we'll do a just beginning of the year mile run that's 6.5 minutes for a big guy, 6 minutes for a guard. It's not terribly difficult, but it's kind of hey, you come in, you knock that out, and it's over. And so that usually gives them enough shape that they're making it. It's a very not exceptionally difficult standard, but for what we do, we play very fast in transition. And so I would say how we get them there is we run a lot in the preseason as far as sprinting at the end of practice just to get in shape. But then we scrimmage a ton, especially in the preseason. And we'll do something that coaches might find interesting is we'll do what's called speed scrimmages, which are basically 4 or 5 minutes. You're not allowed to sub. And anytime there's a foul, the ball gets instantly thrown in, and if there's a foul on a made basket, it's just 2 points. Or on any shot, we're just giving them 2 points. If the ball's getting thrown in, we're going the other way. So there's no downtime at all. So we go 4 or 5 minutes straight like that, and every dude is just gassed by the end. But it's a great way to actually play basketball and get in good shape and develop that ability to make decisions quickly when you're tired. And that's a big adjustment for a lot of kids coming from high school. We have a few freshmen here that are, great players in high school. Max Toombs, Bron Roberts, a bunch of others, James Rust, guys that Easton Hawkins from Lehigh that played just, last year or went on a mission and just came back. And that's one of the biggest challenges is adjusting to the speed of the game. And so those types of speed scrimmages make it really fun. And it's way better than just running ladders. So.
Yeah, I love it. There's that balance of running ladders that happens,
yes.
and then with a ball conditioning that also happens. That's great. Can we move over to now you're trying to persuade recruits here? I have a lot of history here in Ephraim with family and everything else. I've been here. I love it. It's a charming town.
Yeah.
How do you recruit people here now and lure them in here? One of your assistants was saying nobody recruits like Coach May. He's so good at it.
That's
so how
awesome.
do you persuade people to come play here outside of we were the number 1 ranked team?
Yeah. Well, I would say developing recruiting skills to me, like any sort of, and I would say coaching generally, work with people that are great in the industry to be mentored by them, right? I was mentored by one of the best recruiters in college basketball, Coach Rose at BYU, and his assistant coaches, Tim Lacombe was a fantastic recruiter. And so I got to see firsthand and be there as how they viewed things, how they persuaded people, how they understood the situations of each individual that they were recruiting. And so much detail and thought goes into that process. It is definitely, some of those habits definitely rubbed off on me. And then, working for other great coaches. But as far as for us, recruiting, especially when I first got the job, luckily, Snow was a good destination when I got the job. That helps. That helps that, people know who it is. There's some name recognition. If I say Snow College, a lot of people knew who it was. And so that's a great starting point. But to me, it's all about trying to kind of build generally the brand of your organization. And I think that applies not just to basketball, but to multiples. Is there's a reputation and a perspective that people view your organization. And so building it really started with my culture, talking about building our team purpose, our values, our standards. Those were kind of like the foundation of this is how we're going to be. And we can't fake who we are, right?
Yeah.
Once we have taken care of how we're operating inside of our program, to me, that's foundational. And you can have the best marketing in the world, and if your program sucks, it doesn't matter, right? And so that to me is the starting point, is make sure we're doing everything we can to be the best people. We're developing our players the best that we can. We're trying to win as much as humanly possible, super competitive. Once that kind of foundation of the inside of your program's built, to me now it's being able to share that with the rest of the people. Mm-hmm. And so how we definitely did that is, and learning from Coach Rose and other people is, once we've evaluated a player and we feel like, man, this is a guy that could be a difference maker for us, it's approaching that player, understanding who they are, understanding what they want. And really it's about understanding their dreams. What is it that they really want in their future? And I think that's one of the things we've done a really good job of is Snow is a fantastic place to help kids live their dreams of the future. And so it's almost ideal for people that have lived here. It's it's secluded enough that our guys literally come here and they grind all week. I mean, there's not a whole bunch of other stuff to do. Like, it's not like we're in Las Vegas, right? Like where there's a bunch of other things to do. And so we really develop a schedule with our guys that's very rigorous. But that being able to show to recruits that we can help them come here, and recruiting kids that fit us has been a big aspect of it, is seeing that they have the characteristics that they can thrive here is a really important thing. And then once we get decided that we're having them come, we usually invite them to campus. We usually talk about, we'll break down what their game looks like. We'll show them film of past players here at Snow that we've developed and where we've been able to take them, but also show them how we play and how they fit us. And I think that's been a big part, is that kids feel when they come to Snow and they play on our team is that I genuinely care about their success. Like there's no faking that. I genuinely want them to become the best players that they can be. And so, and that I've been doing this at a lot of places and have the skills to help them develop to get to those places that they want to be. And we've had success doing it. And now I would say our recruiting now is a lot better than it was when I first got the job, which once that brand of, that we have tough kids that are smart, that play together, that are high character, all of those things build on each other to where now we're having people call us and say, hey, here's this really high level player like BYU did this year. And hey, we have a really high level player, can we put him in your program and you'll grow and help him get better? And so that's what I would say for us. Recruiting is very, very intentional. I have the final say on each kid, and my assistants do a great job of learning about the kids. They are excited about them, and then they let me watch them, and they tell me what they see, what their situation is. And then ultimately, we collectively as a group will make the decision. But I mean, I am fully invested in that process because it's super important to me. Having a championship culture and recruiting at a high level and having high level X's and O's, all of those fit together to build a really good program.
What does that outreach look like to the kid? Is that going to a game? Is that through their coach? Like, what does that initial outreach look like to a guy that you're interested in?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely my assistant coaches are knocking down the doors, or on the flip side, a high school coach that I trust or one of my assistants knows that, hey, you should check this kid out. He's a really good player, so forth. So that's the initial start, is evaluation. We're not usually talking with kids initially until we feel like, okay, this kid has a chance to be an impactful guy for us. And then once that's happened, we'll establish relationship by reaching out to them and their coach and the people in their lives that are important to them, that mentor them. And so that's usually how it starts, is we evaluate and we feel like, okay, this kid fits what we're doing. We have the people, like I said, in their lives from coaches or other coaches that have kind of validated what we've seen, and then we start the process. And that, I would say, generally speaking, is happening for kids. Junior college, we don't recruit a ton of younger classmen, like freshmen, sophomores, because if they end up being super good, they're moving to Division I. And so we don't really, I wouldn't say waste our time. We have our eyes on them. We know who they are. We're paying attention to them. I have both my assistants coach AAU so they can see, the kids that are developing up the ranks. And no doubt we will miss on kids. We'll not have offered a kid that we should have, or so. I mean, it's never a perfect process, but that evaluating, and then when they start moving into their senior year, they finish their senior year of AAU, we'll have a pretty good idea of, okay, this is a kid we could get involved in. And then another just crazy factor of being in Utah is that a lot of them are going to go on missions. And so okay, how are we planning this kid for 2026? And, Coach Rose would always joke, like, I don't know if we can recruit that kid. I might be dead by the time he gets here. So I tell my assistants that sometimes, if I recruit this kid, I don't, maybe I'll still be here. Maybe I'll be alive. Who knows? But that's all part of the process.
What does it look like from a scholarship perspective in junior college? Like getting them here, what is it that you can really offer these kids when they come here?
Yeah, great question. So that's a big disparity across junior colleges. And so being able to have kids that can come here and get their school paid for, the highest levels of junior college, usually they're getting that stuff like tuition paid for, and then they'll have circumstances where they can help with other things like housing and food and so forth. And so it's definitely not like Division I where, I don't know, we get 15 scholarships or
you get $1 million to come here.
Yeah, I mean, shoot. and that's definitely another topic of NIL, and NILs hasn't really hit junior college very much yet, but there's very good chance that it will. You know, it totally legally can, but so there's definitely good resources, and that's part of our great part here at Snow is from a resource standpoint. There's some really good things here. We don't have everything. We're not the highest in all of junior college, but we definitely outkick our coverage as far as we are out overperforming what we have from a financial resources here at Snow, which is great. Yeah. And we're grateful for the things that we have here, no doubt. But that's just an important thing for kids to know as they go through the recruiting process at other schools is, okay, what does that look like? At certain schools, they'll have the Pell Grant that you receive cover all of your stuff, and that's it. Luckily at our school, guys can keep their Pell Grants on top of getting some tuition help and all those things. And so there's definitely good things that are there in junior college, but each situation is definitely unique. So as kids go into that process, that's definitely important. And we not only are you doing that to recruit kids here, but when we get kids here, they're getting offers to go places. And so we try to coach them up on that process of, okay, you're now going to start having NIL conversations. What does that look like? How do we help you think about, your NIL potential versus your opportunity to play potential? All of those things go into the process. So.
Well, and academic opportunities too, to your point earlier of like, if you're doing well in high school, I think that gives you even more opportunities to find good things for you in the future. This is so cool. And the recruiting, you use the word persuade. And I love that because I feel like persuasion is helping them see what you can offer them, which you had brought up, where manipulation is the other way around, right?
Sure.
You don't want to manipulate people to just try to attract them here and not give them what their dreams are. You're showing them what their dreams are and how to achieve that, which I think is just awesome.
No doubt. And I would say I've learned through the process of working with other great coaches is like that transparency is important, that kids understand that, because it's what can build continuity in the future is that they trust you, that when I tell them like, hey, if you come here, and I tell no recruits that come here, hey, you're going to be a starter. Like I never tell one of them. And all the great coaches I've worked with, never, because we're going to give you the opportunity to compete against really good players. And I think that's important so that if a kid doesn't achieve in his very first season the level of playing time that he's interested in, it's not because the coach lied to him. It's because I gave you the opportunity to compete. And most of the time, if they're being honest with themselves, they'll say, yeah, like I see how this kid beat me out in these things. Here's what I got to work on. And so that's a big part of building a team is I try to recruit kids that are fairly socially aware, about who they are, what their strengths are. If I get in a recruiting pitch with a kid and he goes, yeah, I mean, I'm 6'9" and I should play point guard this next year, and I'm not very good at dribbling and I can't pass the ball and all that stuff. Like that's a big red flag to me of like, okay, he's going to be totally disappointed when he comes here and I'm going to put him at the 4 or the 5. And like, that's going to be a problem for him. Yeah. So that's part of the process for kids too, is understanding who they are. And to me, that's how you build really good teams is I have a whole bunch of guys that are bought into who they are and what their roles are. And they're living those things to the best of their capacity and they fit together really well. Right. Versus if I have 6 dudes that think they all should be the leading scorer, like we're going to all be disappointed. Yeah. And so that's a big part of it.
Are those formal conversations you have with players is here is where we see your role at for right now? And again, I try to say this on a lot of things, but your role isn't who you are, but for this team to win, here's the role we see you playing, or are they kind of like feel it out? Your assistants handling that? Who handles that?
Yeah, great question. I would say I've subscribed to Jay Wright's philosophy that I try to preach to our guys of like your status on our team is all the same. All of us are important aspects of it, and we try to make things so that we recognize the guys that don't play a ton and how they contribute to our team. A great example of this was when I was at BYU, a really good player on the Jimmer Fredette team, Logan Magnuson, who was a captain on the team, who was the leader of our scout team. And later in the season, we had some issues. A player goes down, and Logan actually plays in the national tournament against Wofford in the first round. He bangs a couple threes. He has 7 rebounds, and we win. And that sort of like, guys, that there's going to be guys on our team that have this role is something that I'm preaching from the very first day they come in the door. Is like, we have 17 guys. For us to be good, 10 to 11 of you are going to play significantly. Right? If it's more than that, that's going to be tough on guys. And there's a chance it could be less, but having those frank conversations are important. And then I would say we have once a month or so individual interviews with me and my 2 assistants and the player. And I give them that feedback of, right now I see you as our 3rd string point guard. Right now I see you as this. And that's not permanent. But that's where we currently are, and that's where you need to be, or you're redshirting, right? Like, and so I definitely have those direct conversations with them because I want them to know that they're really important to us, even if they're redshirting, even if they're our 3rd string point guard, even if they're super important to us to be successful as a team. And so I've just learned being straightforward about those things is very helpful. Kids would, one of the biggest complaints kids usually have at the season, and I would say maybe in lots of cases, they're cop-outs or excuses, but many times they feel like I'm not getting feedback to know what I need to do to get better. I'm not getting feedback as to why I'm not playing, right? And I think giving them that helps them see it, and there gets a certain level of acceptance. And at some point, if that's the way it is and it goes through the end of the year and they're totally unsatisfied with that, then it makes sense for them, like, I need to move on. Coach has been really clear about this. I should go somewhere else. Versus if I'm just totally unclear about it, I feel like in a lot of cases, kids just develop some resentment. They feel frustrated. And then there's no like answers to what they can do to get better, or at least accept the fact that, no, I'm not at the level of these other guys.
Yeah. Parents are heavily involved at the high school level. How much do parents actually get involved at this level now?
Yeah, great question. Essentially none.
Okay.
Which is one of the most attractive things of coaching junior college.
We love parents, but
no.
Yeah.
Love parents. But let's face it, like, there is a certain amount of, I know parents have been investing thousands of dollars since their kid were in 3rd grade. They're putting them in accelerated teams. They're doing all the stuff to get them to the opportunities eventually to maybe down the road have a chance. Like, it's a lot of investment that parents have given in. And so I understand their passion and for taking care of their kids. I have 5 kids and one of mine is a senior this year. And so I understand the passion behind it. One of the best parts of being in junior college is they're adults now. I don't have to talk to mom and dad about anything. I still do. And when they come on their visits with their parents, I tell them, you can call me about every single thing that's going on in his life, minus how much he's playing.
Yeah.
That is 100% my call. That's my job. They're paying me to be the guy that says, no, you're not. Yes, you are. And so I think when you're straightforward with them about it, they appreciate it. They understand it. Boundaries made. I don't get calls from them. I'll get an anonymous letter from somebody every now and again, but to which I snap a picture, send it to my brothers who joke about it, and that's it. So
that's awesome.
Yep.
What does the reality of life look like for a college basketball player here in terms of the time commitment? How are they balancing academics? Because again, they have very good grades here. With what is practice time? I think you mentioned 2 hours a day. Practice time outside of that, right?
Yeah.
So their own skill development if they want to do that. Travel to and from games and all that. What does the realities of life look like here?
Super busy. So basically, starting school, we'll have about a 4-hour block from 8 to about noon. We practice 12:30 to 2:30. At 2:30, we'll usually watch film for about an hour. Then they go to the weight room for about an hour. Sometimes those are flipped depending on the weight room schedule. And luckily, we are blessed enough to have an incredible facility here for weights. Again, going back to like what makes Snow special is we have as good of Division I level weight room facility, and we have a strength coach he's worked with Alabama, he's worked with Indiana, and he runs all of the weights for all of the programs in our facility. But so those are huge advantages. And part of when you say how I persuade is we are totally committed to the weight room. Our guys crushing it in there, and the strides that they make in the weight room definitely pay off in our physicality on the floor, our ability to get past injuries and so forth. And so those weights are really important. We'll get done with weights. We'll let them go grab food for about an hour, hour and a half, and then we'll do study hall essentially 4 times a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. My incoming freshmen all have to do 6 hours of study hall. My guys that are crushing it in the classroom have to do 0, like totally dependent on their capacity to handle their academics. Yeah. If somebody's struggling, they got 6 hours. Like it's just very simple. So they do that. And so they're getting done with that around like 7 o'clock at night ish. And so it's a grind for those 4 days. Now, one of the things that, to kind of balance that is during the preseason, I let our guys, we don't usually practice on Saturday and Sunday during the preseason as a way that they can go home. Most of them are from in-state. I've got 12 in-state guys, I believe, this year of my 17, and so they can go home for the weekend, see family, go to a football game somewhere else, and so that's kind of the awesome part of being here at Snow is it's still close enough that people can go spend time with family, all of that, and so we grind like crazy for 5 days. We get done with practice Friday afternoon, and they split, and then obviously once the games start, we're playing every Saturday essentially. So that's usually the schedule. It's definitely rigorous for a lot of kids that aren't used to it. It's super hard, but we feel like it's the best prep so that when they go to the Division I, they've been in a D1 weight room. They know exactly what it looks like, and they're going to crush that D1 weight room and not be like overwhelmed by it, right?
Yeah.
So those are definitely the grind.
Once somebody commits here or they're going into their second year, what does that year look like? So is there an off season where they're just kind of gone and out of contact, or are you still having open runs happening consistently, or there might be rules around that? What does that look like? Because there's the season, which is important, but before that, what's happening? For
sure. So as soon as they are finishing their freshman year, we can still continue to do workouts with them to the end of the school year. Once school gets out, they go home usually. I'll hold 2 usual summer camps during the summer where I'm doing little kids camps, all that stuff, and I'll bring them back to be counselors at that. We'll play some pickup, do a little bit of skill development that the kids can watch as part of the camp. But like really, there's essentially nothing in the summer, and so I'm heavily encouraging them to find the best level ball that they can play. Like if they're living in Utah County and go play with the BYU players, the Utah Valley players, Weber State guys up there, right? And just that sort of experience is going to help develop their games. And really, summer is all about expanding their games, doing stuff that they're not comfortable doing, trying new things, incorporating it into pickup and whatnot. So that's what usually the summer looks like. There's a few junior college programs that have exceptional resources that can bring them in during the summer to do some stuff. We don't have that. There's a few kind of rule caveats that you can do. But yeah, the general thing is school starts back up in August, and we dive right in the very first day. We have a class that we get to start doing basketball right out of the gates. So
that's awesome. Then once season starts, you said you play on Saturdays?
Yep. And Thursdays generally.
And Thursdays?
Yeah.
What does travel look like? It seems like you have some schools here in the state, but then you also seems like you're going distances.
All over the place. So like last year we played I think it was the 12th or 13th toughest schedule in the country. We played 10 out of our 30 regular season games were on the road, or at home. So 20 out of the 30 were away from home. And so we play intentionally. Coach Nielsen, who was here before me, told me like, hey, you can schedule at the Division I level. Guys are extremely, how would I say this, conservative in how they schedule. And because they're trying to win to keep their jobs, I totally get it. In junior college, he definitely said, one of the things he said was like, you should schedule to try to win and play the toughest teams that you can. And when he's your athletic director, that gives me a ton of confidence because he understands that if we go play these games and we lose them, like we're playing really good teams, and he understands that it's for our end good to do it. And so like this last season, we went to Iowa to play Indian Hills and Lake Region State. We went to Texas to play Odessa, Midland, and New Mexico Military. We went down to Arizona, played 4 games in 7 days down there to play Eastern Arizona, Arizona Western, Yavapai, and Central Arizona. So we played all those. This year, we have a similar schedule, a couple more home games, which is awesome. But we play on the road at South Plains, who's number 2 in the country, which will be fun. We have Indian Hills coming to our place, who's, I want to say they're 13th in the country. We're going to Eastern Arizona, another top 15 team. We're playing at Utah State Eastern. And so we'll make one little trip to Northwest Wyoming. I shouldn't say little. It's like 8 or 9 hours. To Northwest Wyoming. We'll do a few other ones like that. So we definitely travel significantly here at Snow, and kind of our location makes it so that we have to. But, I've been pretty aggressive in scheduling in the last year, and it definitely paid off where we feel like when we came to league, we're experienced playing tough teams on the road. We're comfortable with that. But it also has paid off in that we have a few of those really good teams coming to our place in subsequent years. So it's a challenge in junior college, but it's not as crazy as it is in Division I.
How much is like buses versus planes? Like what is the switch to flip it from one to the other?
Good question. Most of the stuff that we do in league is all bus, which like the furthest bus ride is either Colorado Northwestern and Rangeley, or we'll bus up to Twin Falls to play College of Southern Idaho. We will fly to North Idaho, which is in Coeur d'Alene up there by Spokane. And then all those other ones, the Texas trips, The Arizona trips, generally we're flying those, which is great. There's some really good flights out of Provo for cheap. So we can do some good things there. But luckily, that's, I would say, very unusual for junior college. Coach Nielsen before me did a fantastic job. Our current AD, Karen Johnson, has done a fantastic job to allow us to be able to do that, because really, if we didn't do it, we wouldn't be able to play all those tough teams. We wouldn't be able to get them to come back here in the future. And so that's kind of how we make it happen.
That's awesome. Your assistant told me to ask you, what are your craziest manager stories?
So the fun part is all three of the guys on our staff, and my assistant from the previous year as well was a manager. And so we all have great stories. And one of the things that being a manager does is it just, like, it's a great foundation of humility, of like, I'm sweeping the floor. I'm filling up water bottles. I'm doing laundry. I mean, I remember probably my first year as a manager sitting in a hotel in LA. We're at the NCAA tournament and we played, and we had shoot around the next day. And so I'm essentially up till like 2 a.m. doing laundry in a coin operated machine, like probably trying to do homework at the same time, making sure nobody comes in and steals our stuff. I mean, that's the kind of like sacrifice and effort that managers do to, be part of the team. And so I kind of knew, my dad was a coach. He coached for a bunch of years. I kind of knew that this was a possibility of route for me in the future. And so being able to be a manager at BYU as kind of my intro into the college basketball world was awesome. I mean, it was a great experience. But I mean, the another great story was I was one of my first assignments was I was to be Tyler Haws, who's BYU's all-time leading scorer, and in fact, he's getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. He texted me and invited me to come to his dinner and all that stuff, which is awesome. But I was assigned to be his rebounding guy. Like, that was my job, and it was a big deal in getting him to come to BYU. Is that we're gonna have support for you to get shots when you want to, work out when you want to. And our very first 2 or 3 times we go into the Smith Fieldhouse down there, and somebody comes and harasses us because he's in his practice gear and doesn't have his long sleeve on. We don't have a wristband that you're supposed to have to be in there. I'm like, guys, this is a top 50 guy in the country, and eventually he's going to be our all-time leading scorer here at BYU. Is it okay if we let him shoot on the hoops for a little bit? So there's tons of good manager stories. My assistants and I, we want to write a book that's called Just Take Care of It, is the name of it. And so we're just going to gather all of these great manager stories. We'll probably change the names and the places and the people, to keep everybody safe. But there are incredible stories. So usually when I talk to coaches, especially ones that have been managers or director of operations or similar positions where you're just taking care of a whole bunch of ridiculous stuff that you feel like would have nothing to do with basketball, but yes, you're doing it. So.
Oh yeah, I was talking with Parker Van Dyke, who played at the University of Utah, and it was crazy how much of our conversation was off the court stuff. And so so much is going on behind the scenes of laundry and shots and everything else, and injuries and weight rooms, all for that brief moment in time on the courts to perform at your best. But it's so much more off of the court. Yep. What was it like living through Jimmermania?
Yeah, it was a great experience. It was obviously so formative for me in shaping how I view offense, like being able to see some really elite offensive teams and what they did, and Coach Rose's philosophies around them were super formative for me. Obviously, working with Jimmer, and he's a fantastic guy, staying in touch with him. He was such a humble guy that just was an incredible ability to focus in the moment. Really helped me as a coach identify players that were big play and big game guys, that they have this capacity to block out the distractions of what big games are, that, there's coaches in the stands and there's all these fans and all these people. And when you're a really good player, none of that means anything. It has nothing to do with what you're focused on in the game. And in fact, in Jimmer's case, he was wired so that when we went on the road, he scored better on the road than he did at home, which is unheard of. And so it was such a great experience, but it also taught me the impact of what a single player could do in the opportunities for everyone else on the team. Everybody was talking about Jimmermania, and as a result, they learned who his teammates were: Jackson Emery and Brandon Davies and Noah Hartsock and Kyle Collinsworth and all these guys, and multiple guys that went and played in the NBA after that from that team. And so it was a special, special experience. I mean, it was the winningest season in BYU history from number of wins, and I've been lucky enough to be on Same thing at Utah Tech when I was there. We had the most wins in school history the last year that we were in Division II. And it really helped us this last season at Snow. We had the winningest season in school history.
Yeah.
It made me like see this is foundational for me of seeing the type of team that they didn't care about all the stuff off the floor. All they cared about is how much they enjoyed playing together. And that's definitely how my team felt last year of like, these guys were devastated when we lost in the second round at a half-court shot, and not devastated because we lost the game, devastated that we weren't going to be able to continue to play together, which is like exactly as a coach is like, that's exactly what I want is my teams to absolutely love playing together. And yeah, it was awesome.
That's so cool. You say Jackson Emery. So I think I was a freshman when he was a senior. And so I remember watching some of his games when he was at Lone Peak, and he was like my idol as a freshman kid, just watching because he could jump and he did everything offensively. Yeah. And it's so interesting to see that you're the guy in high school and then you go to college and he was amazing and incredible,
right?
But he's not the primary ball handler in those cases.
Sure.
So yeah, he was a hero growing up. So that's super cool.
Oh yeah.
How do you follow up the greatest season in Snow College basketball history? What are your expectations? What are your hopes for this coming year?
Not taking the formula from last year and thinking that you can just hit repeat. Like there is a new team with a new identity that needs to be formed with new leadership. We lost starting point guard, a 2-guard that started about half the season for us, the National Player of the Year, the 4-man that went to Oakland. And so those guys, you know, we also lost a 6th man, kid named Coleman Ford from Timpview High School that was fantastic for us. All those guys are gone. And so for me, being able to create a new identity for this team this year that's going to look a little bit different, that's going to have different pieces. And then to me, that's kind of the excitement of it for me is like, how can I do this again in a different manner, right? It's not going to be identical. And so I think a big aspect of it is that you cannot feel any sort of like complacency with what happened last year. And I think the best teams that I've been around, the best coaches, no doubt, it's like I stay locked in on what today is. And all I can control is how great our practices is today. And if I do a good job with that, then I can build on it and just continue to reiterate that process. And then continue. I showed our players at the beginning of this year a clip from Steph and how he talks about just being locked in on the process and doubling down on the process. And that's kind of been a little bit of our theme this year is like, we're going to double down on the things that will make us successful and do that at an even higher level. The way I'm giving them feedback this year relative to last year, even more deeper with them, more consistent in it. Like those processes are kind of the place where I see, okay, I'm going to double down on that. And then the second part that Steph says in the video is he says that we find new ways to get better. And I think that like is the growth mindset that you want of, okay, just because we did something like that looked like that last year, I'm not clueless to the fact that there's a lot of stuff that has to happen right for that to happen like that. And so if some of those things don't happen that way this year, can we still be resilient and continue to grow and get better? And that's to me the most fun part about this job is obviously helping my guys live their dreams, but it's building that team and growing that team in directions that I don't even know what they might look like here in February. You know what I mean? And I think one of the initial thoughts that I had coming into coaching was like, hey, teams are just, you do this every time and your team will either be good or bad depending on if you have good players. And I found like the best coaches are maximizing their team in their unique ways every single season. And how that team plays this year, a great example of it was watching Gonzaga year in and year out win at a super high level. And they did it with different types of guys and playing in slightly different ways and accentuating different things that those guys could do. And that to me is a sign of fantastic program, fantastic coach. And so, you know, our goal is win every game, you know, but and we don't spend a ton of time talking about goals. Like I'm not preaching every day about let's win the national championship because the best teams that I've been on, like it's all about when I went to the Boston Celtics practice facility in their locker room, it says on the board, it says our goal is to win the next possession, right? Yeah. And that's kind of what I'm trying to help our guys get to is like the big picture stuff of do we win the league? Do we win the national championship? Have nothing to do with can I win what I'm supposed to do today? And if I do that really well and I'm disciplined in that the next day, and then our very first game is Friday, can we go in there and play the best that we can? And if we lose, what are we taking from that to win the next one, right? And that to me is how you win a whole bunch of games. I mean, we won 25 in a row, and it really was because guys weren't like, oh, this is 23, we're supposed to lose. Or on the flip side, it's like, it's 23, we're going to win. It's no problem. It's like, no, every one of these is important. We're going to give our best effort, best focus, and I think that definitely pays off.
What is that locker room conversation like after a win and after a loss?
I would say it's the best coaches that I've been around. When we win, we move on quickly. We're excited about the stuff that went well, and we'll definitely watch film the next day and show a lot of the things that went well, and here's some of the stuff that we need to grow. And so my approach, whether we win or lose, isn't necessarily very different. It's like picking apart the stuff that wasn't as good when we win. And then when we lose, it's, fellas, this is totally unacceptable, but it does us no good to A, feel sorry for ourselves, B, point fingers and blame. It's all about like, let's own our process of the game and what were the things we didn't block out well enough. We didn't screen very hard. Like ball was getting sticky. Guys weren't cutting through to generate gaps for each other. Like that whole process to me is how you help your guys move from we lost and I'm frustrated and there's no answers to, well, then let's dissect what the answers were and get better at those behaviors and processes. And if we do that over and over and over, we'll eventually win. I don't know if we'll win the next one, but we'll keep plugging. And so I think that's a big part of my job. And then the other thing that I'd say is my second year, or in fact, my first year, we started the season top 25. We got into like the top 15. So, and then we hit a stretch in league where we lost 2 or 3 or 4 out of 5 or something like that. We hit that stretch. And I remember just like wanting to bang my head on the wall like crazy. And like a thing that I learned from that stretch is we all want that progress to be linear. Like we work hard and good stuff happens. We work hard and good stuff happens. And that's not the case. It doesn't happen that way. And helping my players view their progress as in, if I continue to trust that I work really hard, I continue to work at my skills, it might not immediately pay off, but if I keep doing it over and over, eventually I'm going to break through. And that's exactly what happened. We end up beating the number 2 team in the country, Salt Lake. We went to the region tournament and we beat undefeated number 1 home host CSI on their home floor. The first time Snow has ever beaten the number 1 team in the country. So like stuff can happen, but it takes me continuing to believe that, and I share that because I think there's lots of coaches that only one coach gets to win the championship each year. There's other coaches that are going through that grind and continuing to help your players view the season in that way of like, hey, we hit some adversity, stuff didn't work out, we lost the game or whatever, but we got to continue to double down on our process.
Yeah.
And I think that really helps.
For anyone who saw that, there's a football. That was just right by the football field. Yeah. I love that mindset, and I talk about that a lot with my son of a lot of times are you doing the right things? Are you making the right decisions? Because he'll look at a shot and miss a shot. It's like, but that was the right decision. Yeah. And sometimes he'll make a shot, but it wasn't the right decision. And so it's like we're more worried about the process and the decisions because you win games that way. You'll win a possession every once in a while with a bad shot, but you don't win games that way. And
no
so
doubt.
That.
And I would add to that, helping my guys in their shooting is a process. And when guys lose sight of being locked in on the process of their shot, then that's when their head starts spinning and man, I missed 2 and now I'm going to miss 3 and I'm not missing 4. And they're totally focused on the outcomes instead of the process of their shot. Like were my feet set? How was my arc? All those little details. And, we give specific mechanical things to guys that need help here at Snow and they're shooting. But I think that's a super important part to being a really good player is like your ability to stay locked in on that process, even when it didn't go well. Can you find the feedback of what's not going as well and how can I adjust? Like that's what, and the teams that do that the whole game win the game usually. Yeah. I mean, unless you play another really good team that does that, then they'll throw in a half-court shot and beat you at the end of the day. So,
oh, that's funny. I think that's another thing, a challenge I think that maybe you'll have this year too, is that now that you've had that number 1 spot out there, not that teams are going to overlook other teams, but now it's like a little added human nature of like, okay, they're the program that we got to watch out for, and they're not going to sneak one by us. And so I think that'll be interesting for you and your team to deal with this year.
Yeah, I think it'll be a big part of it. And also, just like we talked about, of not regressing to, well, that's what we did last year, and that's like it's a new game. Nothing that we did last year has any effect on how we play on Friday. So like helping them with that mindset is huge.
What is the best part about coaching, and what is the most difficult part about coaching?
Most difficult part. Okay. Best part of coaching, no doubt is the relationships, the fun. I hope to not get emotional talking about it. It's awesome. Like helping my guys achieve their dreams when I see them like go to new programs and hit it out of the park, and those coaches love those players, and the coaches call me back and say they're awesome, and they're like, that is super fulfilling for me, because it doesn't just happen. It's a ton of work for me, for our staff, for all the people here, and for the players themselves. And so that's no doubt the best part with the competition. Like my job literally is to go for 2 hours and try to get a bunch of guys to throw a ball in the hoop. Like that's my job.
Yeah.
It's so awesome. And I mean, I had opportunities, earlier to jump out of coaching, and it's very lucrative to not coach. You know what I mean? Like coaching is generally speaking, unless you're in the top 1%, it's not paying you very well. And it's all about, the passion that I have for developing my players as leaders and as players. That's the most fulfilling part. Being part of a team is so special, and being part of something that you can just totally give your heart and soul to do the best that you can, and then live with the results. And if it works out and you win a championship, awesome. But if not, continue to do it the next year is so much fun. And so I'd say the hardest part of coaching, probably, I'd say one of the hardest parts is just it's so unique of a profession that there's not a lot of people that understand how it is. Like, I mean, there's not many dentists have people looking over their shoulder and criticizing. Well, then the dentist goes to church on Sunday. Does somebody come in and say, man, you weren't very good this weekend, right? I mean, that's part of being a coach.
Why did you twist left instead of twist right there?
Exactly. And so those are the unique parts about being a coach is you're going to be criticized by everyone, right? Like, even if you're here at Snow College, people are paying attention. They're watching, which is awesome. It's what I want. I want to be at a place where people care, right?
Yeah.
And so, but that's definitely the challenges. And I would say that challenge also extends to like my family is, and I saw it at BYU, I saw it at Utah Tech. Like when you're in a family where your dad's the head coach, like when they win and when they lose, the community knows and they feel it. And there's, we let them down. And so that's one of the things as a coach that you just get to develop this ability to like, hey, I can't be caught up in what other people feel about what I'm doing. If I know I'm truly trying to do the best that job that I can, I'm living with the results all day. And if it doesn't please somebody, that's the way it is. But that is for sure. Like, it's hard to coach if you are really concerned all the time about what other people think, right? Yeah. I genuinely care about the dudes that are in my industry that are really good coaches and what they see. And I try to have relationships to hear what they see and what they think. And that's way more important to me than the average fan who has no idea all the stuff that we're trying to do. That's probably one of the hardest parts about it.
Well, and I love that because I'm a lowly assistant high school coach, right? Like that's my experience. But over the summer, our head coach was gone for a couple of weeks. So I coached a game. Yeah. And we lost a close one. Yeah. And I couldn't sleep. And I was like, what if I had done this? Or should I have played this guy more or less? Or what were they thinking here? And all of this stuff. And it was crazy how I'd never experienced that from the coaching perspective before. And that's just as the assistant and as the head coach. It's even more intense with all of that. And then also what you were saying is, I remember when my first kid and all kids were born, that day you're like, I will die for this kid. Yeah. And you hadn't met him before or anything. And I've noticed that where this is the first year, and I'm like, I will do anything to help these kids, to just get whatever they can, and I want them to be successful. And I think a lot of times people don't see that side of the coaching of, I've never met a coach that's like, yeah, we want to lose this year. Right. We don't want to win these every game possible. Or that's right. I don't want this kid to succeed. I think we're all so invested in helping the program grow. So
I think that's one of the biggest challenges too, is separating your own self-worth with the performance of your players, right? Yeah. Like same with, all of us who are parents, like if your kid does something that's dumb, like it isn't a reflection that you're a terrible parent, right? Yeah. It is this is a place that I have to help them learn and grow. And that's one of the hardest parts to me of coaching is at the end of the day, when my dudes turn the ball over and they go down and dunk it, it's because I'm an idiot coach, right? But really, you separate yourself as like, no, I'm not an idiot coach. I know I'm a really good coach. I know they're really good players. How can I help them? How can I help them? And I think that helps.
See, in mine, like I had that thought. I was like, oh, I'm not a good coach because that was my first attempt at it, right? And so like for me, it's not my self-worth is like I'm a horrible person. It's like anybody, the first time you do something, you're going to make mistakes. And the 100th time you do something, you're going to make mistakes.
No doubt. And I think people like coaching is like learning a language. Like if I were to be judged on how well I learned Spanish when I went on a mission on the first day, like I'm terrible. So it's the same in coaching. Like you have to be able to stick with it over time and learn from the ups and downs. And the thing about it is it's such a humbling experience because if you think you're really good, like I'm on this podcast and I got some answers for you, but within a day you're going to lose the next game and you got to be able to get to the next thing. And that's part of the process. Some of the greatest coaches have terrible seasons. I mean, it happens. And so, that's part of the challenge of this job is being able to move on when stuff doesn't go well.
Well, and you're a player. How hard is it to not have any control really to watch out there? Because that's what I felt is like, man, if I could go out there, then I could box out or I could do something about it.
Totally.
But as a coach, you can't. And so is it harder for you to lose as a coach or to lose as a player?
Great question. Harder to lose as a coach, to lose as a player. I'm way more invested into being a coach, so it's probably harder for that. I mean, as a player, still these days I'll play old man ball and stuff, and it's all for fun, and but it's definitely one of the biggest adjustments, and I think it's one of the areas as a coach I have gotten so much better at from the start of being a coach till now. Is there are so many variables that you can control and influence as a coach, or maybe not control, but influence heavily as a coach. And when I first started, I could only think of 2 or 3 things that I can really do to impact this game. And so often how it ends up as a coach is you feel helpless. I don't have answers. What do I need to do? I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And as you develop in coaching, in my mind, you retain more and more things where you can see details of stuff that I can influence. Like I can influence when the shot goes up. What do our guys that are standing on the perimeter, what can they go do? And I can develop those habits in practice. I can identify them in the game and point them out to them. And so one of the things that helped me, like I mentioned earlier, is having an assistant that kind of runs the defense. Therefore, I can spend the majority of my cognitive ability on watching our players and their status, how they're feeling, how they're competing, who's making shots, who's guarding, I can totally spend time on them, and I can spend time on what we're doing offensively. How are they guarding us? How can we take advantage of it? And so that's really helped free me up because I've realized there's so much out there in a game that you can impact and influence and control and change. And so lots of times when I worked with Coach Rose primarily fixed things in games by putting different guys in. Coach Judkins at Utah Tech would change what they were doing. Defensively, okay, we're going to start trapping, we're going to do stuff. And so it was awesome to see kind of both of those paradigms. And then for me, I'm trying to combine those. Okay, who maybe could help us fix this problem? Okay, maybe it's not who. I need to keep this who in because he can score. What are we going to change defensively to be able to adjust to that? And so those are, to me, part of the growth as a coach is there are so many things that you can influence. Can I be aware of them? Can I see them in the game? And then how do I what's the best way to go about influencing them in the game?
Yeah. I have a couple of questions from Instagram that I'm going to pull up here. But what do you like as outside of basketball? So what do you enjoy? What are you passionate about outside of coaching basketball?
Yeah. It's a big deal. Obviously, I got my family who's, the number one. I'm spending time going to their games, and my son has state cross country tomorrow that I'll be going to watch, and excited about that. But
do you live down here?
I do live down here. I live a block away, which is awesome.
So does your son, is it Manti, or where does he?
So he goes to Manti, yeah. So he'll be running in the 3A state championship tomorrow.
Awesome.
Which he's the number one runner in the state. So in 3A. So we'll see. Hopefully he does great. But I'd say kind of my hobbies. I love to read. I read a ton. I read a ton of leadership books. I read some religious books that are impactful and important to me. I definitely listen to a bunch of books and podcasts and so forth. But yeah, leadership is the primary thing that I listen to. There's a bunch of great authors out there, and everything is applicable to basketball. Most leadership stuff I can find, that's relevant to building leaders on my team. And so those are my I will write some. I've written a few papers in college, and I've done something here that's fun, but that's definitely hey, I got nothing to do besides hanging out with my wife. Those are usually the things that I'm doing.
No, that's great. This is from another coach, Coach Connor Patton. So
Oh, yeah.
he's at Tinnick.
Yep.
What's something you've learned as a young coach that you've always remembered?
So I'm thinking of my first youngest kind of experience. I did coach one time when I was 12 with my mom, a summer league game, but that doesn't count. We'll say my first job as a JV coach, assistant JV coach at Orem High School, right after I graduated. One of the big things I learned there was there's many aspects to the game, and all of them, you can go to a different depth of mastery in that area. So on that team, I was in charge of only press break. That was my job. And which I thought was interesting, probably because he didn't trust me very much. And I just graduated high
Nobody
school.
in the region press.
Yeah. That's probably it. But we put in press break, and like I dove into the details of, okay, attacking 2-2-1s, attacking 1-2-2s, attacking run and jumps. What are the best things? What are the principles I should teach my guys? How am I going to go about this? I think each area of basketball, there's some deep dive that you can take. And the more you master those things, the more you're able to really quickly identify the problems of press, right? Like, and everything out of bounds under, ball screens in the middle of the floor. There's essentially two guards out on this side, one guard on this side, or you flip it or whatever. There's a bunch of stuff that you can deep dive into in different areas. And I'd say the more you do that, the more meaningful being a coach is. You can actually go to a kid, they're pressing us. I've got some ways I can help you break this press. You know what I mean? And so that's, to me, probably my initial learning at that level was, man, if I do a good job at this thing, I can really help our players on the floor, make an impact. And so the better I become at doing those things, the more I'm able to influence our guys. And that really is super motivating as a coach, to study, to learn, to hear other coaches, hear their philosophies, watch what they do. I remember watching at the NCAA tournament, the Final Four, they do a coaches convention. What I learned from Randy Bennett at St. Mary's, what I learned from Bob Huggins in West Virginia's press, like all of those things, there was so much there that if I really pay attention and deep dive into those things, man, there's no end to. I really think basketball's inexhaustible. There's so much stuff that you can learn, and if you love it, like it's so fun watching games with other people because, like, I mean, basketball looks like chaos if you don't know what you're doing, and the more you get into it, the more it becomes. No, there's patterns, there's details, there's things. And really, some of the best programs in the country take advantage in these small ways if you're paying attention to. Like, I watched a ton of Florida basketball this last year because they were obviously won the national championship, but they had two big guys on the floor all the time, which is not as prevalent these days. And we actually have very good frontline 4s and 5s that are bigger guys. And so I'm going to watch and see how they utilize them. What do they do? And there's stuff there. You know what I mean? So that'd be the thing I'd say for young coaches is, like, each segment has something in there. Go deep dive into it, and it'll pay off.
Well, and there's the gift. You had mentioned, like, not knowing what to do. I've had those moments of, like, where they ask, hey, what do we do on this play, or how is it? And the panic is like, what if I don't know? What if I have to say I don't know? And there's a gift and a talent, I think, for coaches to be able to explain it too. Because for me, if it's like, hey, put me in that situation and then I'll describe what I'm thinking, but I got to feel it first.
Right.
A coach, you don't necessarily get that. You're out there explaining it without being able to feel it. So
That's
ball screens and stuff, it's like, well, let me walk you through what I'm feeling.
Yes.
But to explain it is a whole different skill.
Whole different skill. And I think that's a super important thing as a coach to develop. And I would also say initially being really clear on your expectations with players is really important. When they're young, you have to have very bright lines of, we are doing this always, right? The more skilled they become, this is what we're doing most of the time, and we'll give you the scenarios of, no, we're not doing that this time. And so that's kind of a nuance of helping kids that are young. You need to say, we're going to deny one pass away every catch, and we have to do it every time. You're going to do it every time. And then as they get older and there's different scenarios, circumstances where you don't want to do that or whatever, I think that's a big part. And as a coach, being able to communicate that is huge.
You've been so generous. I have a couple more questions, then I'll let you get back to your life because I know you're
problem.
busy. What are some of the most electrifying moments that you replay in your head that you've experienced from a basketball perspective, whether that's a buzzer beater or the crowd or a dunk? Like, what is a moment that comes to your mind right now of just was so electric that you could feel the lightning coursing through your body?
Okay, let's start with a opposite of that. So last year we lost our national tournament game, second round, with the guy throwing in a half-court shot to beat us. And that is like what makes the game so beautiful, is that I've been on the other end of those a couple of times. Against UNLV when I was at BYU, they threw in a half-court shot and beat us at the buzzer. What makes the game so much fun is that that's possible. And hopefully at some day I'll be on the other end of that where we throw one in from half-court. But that's kind of what makes the game beautiful, is there's the opposition of, good stuff's going to happen, bad stuff's going to happen. And so most electric things, I'll start with last year. Probably winning at CSI was super fun. I mean, doing that my first year when we beat them when they were undefeated, that was super fun. But this last year, beating them at their place where Isaac Finlinson hit a three with about a minute to go, game was tied, minute to go, just banged a wide open three and, gave us the lead. That was super fun. Playing versus San Diego State at home, where Jimmer, I think, had 40-something and Kawhi Leonard's on the floor. Yeah. That was a fun one. Probably even more fun, though, was beating them at their place. I think they were third in the country or so, and we were fifth maybe, and we beat them at their place, and it was so much fun. Those are probably some highlights. I'm trying to think of any other ones.
Any that got you to jump out of your seat?
Okay. I can't say coaching ones, but seriously, the most excited I've ever been watching a basketball game, because usually when I'm coaching them, I'm not that excited. I'm locked in.
Yeah, it's like the next play has to happen.
Yeah, the next play, and they throw it in, and literally when they threw it in that game, I was like, and time's out. There's nothing left I can do. That's it. You know what I mean? Bummer. But probably the most electric basketball experience to this day is what Steph did in the gold medal game in France. Like, people don't understand. Playing in the NBA, there's pressure in the NBA finals, but you got 7 games. And if you lose it, just play the next season. That's fine. Like, you'll play the next year, it'll be fine. Those deals where you get one shot, you're playing in, France's home floor. They got a bunch of NBA guys, like all of the pressure of, in America, we don't care about anything other than gold. Like all of those things and if you talk to the coaches and you hear the coaches, Coach Krzyzewski, Popovich, and Kerr, they all say it's the most pressure they ever feel as a coach. And to see what Steph did in the championship game was incredible. I literally jumped out of my seat. I'm never like that. But when I saw what he did, it was the most like inspirational, incredible, electric moment where a guy literally was at the top of his game in the most competitive, right? If we lose this, we're America. It's his first Olympic Games. Like all of that pressure of if we lose this is so real versus NBA games or anything else. Yeah. And that dude just was incredible. And to add to it is LeBron, one of the top players ever to play, KD, one of the greatest scorers of all time. They are trying to find this guy and give him the ball. It just... whenever anybody asks me, Steph's the most skilled basketball player to ever play, and maybe will ever be, but we'll see, but he's incredible. So that's one.
There's a photo from that of him taking that last three against 2 or 3 France guys, 7-footers coming after him. And then you see LeBron and KD, and they're like, Steph is the only player in the world where this contested shot 5 feet behind the NBA three-point line is a good shot compared to passing to one of those guys.
It's incredible. So, it was electric.
Who's your GOAT?
Greatest of all time? Probably MJ. I'd still say MJ. I mean, my Mount Rushmore is for sure MJ and Kobe and LeBron and probably Steph. I mean, shoot, if you throw bigs in there, I mean, there's just, I don't know. You go down the rabbit hole of eras and all that stuff. It's tough, but it's a good one.
No, that's awesome. You have been so fantastic. The question that I'd like to wrap this up on is just the context is, again, you have a high school senior basketball player who him and his parents have dedicated their life to playing basketball.
Yep.
What advice do you have to that individual going into his senior year?
Yeah, I'd say the most important thing is have fun. It's freaking basketball. Yeah, like have fun competing, continue to work hard every single day. Make sure your team is the best that it can be. And that means you as a leader are trying to impact all the guys, because in the high school realm, there are levels of commitment to the players on your team. And so it's not enough for you to be committed to being great. You got to help all the guys on your team be great. And that means pushing them, holding them accountable. All of those things pay off to you eventually winning. And so that's the goal for the senior year is win, play the best that you can, win at the highest level, and then see what happens with recruiting. If that's the future for you and that's what you want to do, like your work and the stuff that you're doing with your team right now is what you can control, right? You can't control what coaches come recruit you. You can't do that. So make sure you're handling that aspect. And then once that season's over, like we talked about, if that's your goal, go explore all the opportunities because everybody's route is different. There's only one AJ DeBansto who's getting paid millions of dollars, right? Everybody else is going in these different routes to get to play more in the future. If that's really your passion, then chase it.
Thank you. I can't thank you enough. I feel like the Snow program is so lucky to have you. The players that get to have you as a coach. I mean, just talking to you here is just so great. And so I'd feel comfortable playing for you or my son. I think you're fantastic. So thank you for sharing all of your experience here. This is fantastic.
I appreciate it. If you have more eligibility, we can get you in the workout. We'll see.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Coach.
Awesome. Thank you.